I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 35, Episode 7 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy,
My name is Adam.
My name is Riley.
and in today's episode, Kimmy, that's me, talks about Gamma and industry events. Exciting. And then we have one epic email sent in from Steffi, where Steffi pours a lot of vampire tea about their campaign. And from the Archive 2019, Joe from the Inland Empire, 909, sorry, that's where I was from, asked about making a world with depth.
That'll be in hour 4.
Probably.
Now, when it's a vampire game, is it spilling the blood?
Ooh, probably.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is now.
If you'd like to write in a question or topic to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com, or you can post in the mailbag channel in the Discord. And the Discord is at happyjacks.org/Discord. So many variants on the name. So many variants all the time. It's like, oh my goodness. All right. Announcements. The next game days is March 29th. It's free, and everyone is welcome to come join us at happyjacks.org/Discord. There's always a big variety of games. I think there's already 7 games posted and ready to have people sign up for them right now. And it's still a month away since today is literally the first day of March, and it's not for like the end of the month. And it usually kind of fluctuates a little bit, flows into the day before and the day after, since where you are March 29th may be at a slightly different time than where we are. And we have lots of people running different games in different time zones. So please go check that out. Again, it's just a great, fun community event. Honestly, you do not have to be a podcast listener to enjoy it. It's just for everybody. Although if you're listening to this, you are already a podcast listener. So please continue doing that thing. Okay. Indie Designer of the Month. It is March. We have a new Indie Designer of the Month. Our Indie Designer this month is Jean-Luc Livière-Lancôme. He, him. I really hope I said that right, Jean-Luc. You can find his work at thedungeonskey.com or by finding their games on DriveThruRPG. You can also find them at thedungeonskey.bsky.social on Blue Sky. There is no apostrophe in Dungeons Key on Blue Sky, just so you know. Jean-Luc started his company, The Dungeons Keys, in April of 2022 to publish content for multiple RPG systems, including, but not limited to, Morkborg, Death of Space, and the Old School Essentials. They help run the Indie Game Developer Network, one of the largest communities that support independent game creators. And that's how I met them. Today's game we're talking about, Fool's Gold. Fool's Gold is a Morkborg compatible... Morkborg. I say that all the time, and then every single time I say it wrong, no matter what.
I just always lean into the Swedish chef of it.
Morkborg. Fool's Gold is a Morkborg compatible industry.
I'm sorry for that being a thing you're going to do forever now.
Yes. Fool's Gold is a Morkborg compatible introductory dungeon crawl and contains a total of 14 rooms for players to explore. Your otherworldly patron has called upon you to abduct an alchemist imprisoned by Alphys in a place called the Seguin Halls. Return with them, dead or alive, and great wealth and power shall be bestowed upon you. You can get it for $2.08 at thedragonskey.com.
Dungeonskey.com.
Dungeonskey.com.
And also, you said there wasn't an apostrophe in the Blue Sky. There's also not one in the URL.
In the URL.
Yeah.
But there is one in the name of the company.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's $2.08. I will have to ask Jean-Luc that specifically.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice.
I wonder if it's a thing where, like, over a certain amount is, like whatever they're selling it through, like, if they get over a certain amount, there's, like, this much money goes to one and one goes to the...
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. Or maybe it's just lucky.
Yeah.
Like, I know some people who, like, always put their last digit as, like, a certain number because they feel like it's lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something in the game is 208. Who knows?
Yeah.
Do you think Bjork plays Morkborg?
I hope so. Bjork. My name is Bjork. I play Mark Bjork. I can't do it.
At the market.
Yeah.
Work.
It's funny 'cause it's like such a hardcore system.
That's what's so funny about it. Every time it comes up, I've never played it, but I know of it.
Yeah.
And every time it comes up on the show, it always makes me laugh because it sounds like the silliest possible game
It does,
possible.
yeah.
But I know it's like very tough and hard to play.
Yeah.
I've only ever thought of it as like Morkborg, like hardcore. Like I've never
Yeah.
ever thought of it before Morkborg, and now it's gonna be like this Morkborg.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know, it's bad. It's bad. Don't let me talk.
Morkborg. Today we're going to play Morkborg. God, now we need to play a Morkborg game, but we play it
We're all the
as Swedish
Swedish
chefs.
That has had to be. I
Of course it
cannot
has to be.
imagine that we would be the first to do such a thing.
Well, it's like Brian at last year at ShijiCon played his like Assassin-y game, but he played it with all Muppet characters.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my
what
god.
game it was, but yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I was sad I couldn't be at that table.
Yeah.
All right. So our first topic today is to talk about Gamma Expo. I just got back from Gamma Expo, and Gamma Expo is unique because it is an industry event. It's a tabletop game industry event. So there's not any customers, there's not any fans there. It's literally retailers and publishers and other people in the industry, manufacturers, all talking together and hanging out for like a week.
Huh.
So like one of the most interesting things is one, seeing how much power retailers have in this space. So as a publisher, you are basically going from hotel event to hotel event, begging retailers, please look at my thing. Please, sir, will you look at my RPG? Please, sir, would you please take my RPG into your store?
Please, sir, will you mark my board?
Yeah, exactly.
Sir, my game, he is very sick.
Sick as in good. Please sell it.
Yeah, sick. But yeah, that's kind of sick. I don't know what this voice actor came out with.
But it's just very interesting because, like, having attended fan conventions for so many years, I went to Gamma Expo last year for the first time, and then I went this year as like someone like in the know, which was weird, and I was still like felt like a noob the whole time. But it was interesting because more this year than any other year, at least the other year I've ever been, and based on what other people are saying, retailers have a lot of power about what games actually get out there. Even though people talk all the time now about how people are circumventing kind of retail stores and friendly local gaming stores with the internet, that's still not entirely accurate. So I just, especially with the focus on DEIA stuff lately, I was really proud that Gamma took a big stand for that this year. And they are like supporting that. They're continuing that. I'm on the DEIA committee for Gamma. So also as a committee member, it was great to hear that we're going to continue as a committee.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah.
And they actually, it was in Louisville, Kentucky this year, and they have a contract for that. They've been there for the last few years, but they're actually looking to relocate the convention to someplace where everyone who attends can be safe.
That's good.
So they're working really hard at doing that. They can't break their current contract, but we only have another certain number of years, and then their next location that they're signing a contract with will be safe. So it's really great that they're keeping all that in mind. One thing I wanted to kind of talk about, and we don't have to actually talk about it, it's more of just me telling everybody. As a customer, one of the biggest things you can do to help an indie publisher that you really like is actually call retail stores and order their game through a retailer. So some of us have like forms that you can be like, print it out and it says, hey, Decima, and then you can like hand it to your friendly local gaming store and be like, this is the thing I would like. Please find out how to get it. And that actually helps even more than like going straight to my website and ordering the game.
Yeah.
And this is true for everyone because it creates the appearance of demand.
Yeah.
So that retailer, like literally, if they see one person come in and request a game, they'll probably order a few copies, and that will kind of then like trickle out so someone else grabs it off the shelf or things like that. And then they might tell another retailer about it. And if a retailer's seeing, oh, this is getting ordered by so-and-so, then that's just something that can completely change a small publisher's like status and like ability to sell things in the industry. So I highly recommend if you are really wanting to help a small publisher, please do that. I have some distribution and stuff like that right now, so that's helpful too. And it's not quite as big a deal. So I'm not asking you to do that for me specifically. But we have a lot of people asking a lot of times, how do I support our indie designers of the month, other independent designers? That is one of the biggest ways you can do that, is go to your friendly local gaming store and request that they order indie titles for you.
That's good to know, because I think we, especially in the indie game scene, we get so used to that idea of go directly to the developer, right, and support them directly, because that theoretically gives them a bigger cut of the money. But I think gaming is still such a like brick and mortar place in a lot of ways. So knowing that's actually a key is really good to know, because I think it runs counter to what we think is the best way to support indie designers.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, if you buy my store at a friendly local gaming store, I get a smaller cut than if you buy it from my website. Like a much, 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 much smaller cut.
Yeah.
But again, it increases that demand and it's more of a marketing trick,
right?
Than like a money-making trick.
Yeah.
So you do have to also kind of check in with the designer, because if I'm a designer who's like trying to save money to make rent,
right,
that might change where I'd prefer you buy my game.
right.
But if I'm someone who's really focused on market growth and trying to get my games out there and trying to build up a retail presence so new people can discover my games, then ordering from a retailer can be a big, big difference.
Yeah.
So just like heads up, kind of an interesting thing about the industry that obviously does not apply for ordering from bullshit places like Amazon and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like that just doesn't help my industry.
Right.
that doesn't help my company's like appearance in the industry or let me get all the money from it. So that's not helpful either way. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that particular piece up because it's something that I think people don't realize how much retailers hanging out with each other and talking at bars is what the entire basis of the gaming industry supply and demand is based on. So
I thought it was strange women lying around in ponds handing out swords. So
fun side story. Okay, so I got a secret invite to a group of retailers that are very cool people. They're very nice. But speaking of ponds, they call themselves the Ducks.
Oh.
So it's like I got invited to like the secret location hotel room where
that can be real dicey.
I was scary at first until like I heard more about it, because I was like, I got invited to this thing, drop a pin so everyone knows where I am. Like, this is my time slot. But I also like double checked with people and they're like, oh no, this is a legit thing. And then I talked to a few women retailers I know, and like, oh yeah, I'm in that group. I was like, oh, thank God. So it was like a legit thing. It was very cool. But like legit, it's like these 40 retailers from across the country who are like friends and have similar values, which ended up very much reflecting my values, which I love.
Okay.
And it was literally just me in a room talking to them. And like that is like the basis of how you get your games into retail stores, is just getting lucky with like when you talk to them, honestly.
Yeah.
So So speaking of ponds, it is not a Sub-Zero pond influence with your game hits retail. So anyway, it's very interesting. But yeah, just know that customer demand and communicating that to retailers is a big part of everything.
Very cool to know.
I would argue,
okay,
just to help you out with this stuff. You said it's only random or lucky or whatever. I do think you have put in quite a lot of work and a lot of hours to be someone on the radar to do it. So I'm always saying that both to gas you up and also so that people listening don't take the wrong inflection and be like, oh, well, so you have to be lucky and get in this spot. It's like, no, you do the work, and then hopefully the work leads you to a place where you can get further into it. So it's like, there is still a merit element to it that you can work towards, as opposed to being like in the right place at the right time.
Yes. Absolutely. So just like getting to know people, being faithful to your values, and finding people who match those values. One of the things that actually, like, I was like in tears at the end of the meeting in a good way. But like I had my time slot, and they're very strict on time slots because they basically do back-to-back time slots for like 3 days. So I did my pitch about Decima. I talked to them about Starscape, and then I had 6 minutes left. So I pulled out Virgins and Vixens. And Virgins and Vixens, I've talked about a lot here. It's my feminist role-playing game that's about fairy tales. And I had a whole bunch of people when I first started thinking about publishing it say I would never ever put that in my store. It's got a cute cover, but I'd never put something that's had the word virgins on my shelf. And so like I went back and forth for like a year trying to decide, do I want to rename this? And I couldn't think of anything that captured it as well. And it was like, this is what it is. So I just decided I was just gonna sell it out of my backpack at conventions for the rest of my life. That was what's gonna happen. And at the end of this meeting, I was like, okay, so I have this weird thing. This is what other retailers have told me. If you hate it, that's okay. Just let me know. And they just were so excited about it because I was invited to that particular group because they are very diverse and they're very open and they're trying to find games and stuff that are changing the industry. And so, like, honestly, like, they were more excited. Like, they were very excited about Decima and Starscape, but they were the most excited about that one. And I was just like, after doubting that one for so many years and having it, honestly, like, with the other games, like, that one's the closest to, like, my heart and my soul.
Yeah.
Like, the sarcastic feminist rage and, like, behind big dresses in that game is, like, very strong. So I've always just been nervous about it. And to have them, like, react so warmly to that was like very affirming and very cool. And I like legit, I'm still tearing up like thinking about it because I was so nervous and it was just like 6 minutes. Just fucking go for it. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, good.
Here's my thing.
Good.
So anyway, it was very cool. But yeah, like I think it's really important to be, some of those events are so transactional. And it's like people are trying to twist who they are and what they make to fit whatever the people want. And I think it's really, really important. And I think that with Happy Jacks, I think with everything, it's like really important to be authentic and like, this is what I am. If it's not a good match, tell me now. Like, do the thing. And I think that if you have a vision for what you're making or what you're building with a game store or any of those things, like stay true to it because I think that's an important part of it.
Okay.
All right, we should move on from this very awkward topic now.
No, it's not an awkward topic at all.
I think it's the thing that is relevant, even if you're not looking to be a game designer per se. I think if you're pursuing any sort of creative or artistic pursuit, I think that having a voice that you're being true to and a style of thing that you are enjoying making and are excited about is the key. Because if you start doing things where you're like making compromises to make other people happy, eventually you're making a thing that's not making you happy, and you're not going to be like excited. You're going to burn out on it. So.
And it's going to come off as generic.
Yeah, you lose that authenticity, and people can detect the authenticity too, so I don't think you should discount the value of that in the things that you create. People, whenever you're creating any kind of art, people respond to what you're putting into it. And not to go off on an AI tangent, but this is one of the reasons AI in art is not that interesting. It can be visually beautiful, but there is a missing element of passion that's there. And you can tell if you're used to looking for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you pull back from AI, even, which I agree with everything you said there, but even like we're talking about things that feel inauthentic or kind of like, I don't want to say soulless, but things that aren't, there's already so much, this might not be as true with games, but there's already so much really soulless stuff that's mass marketed by corporations that if people are going to want that kind of content, they're going to go to the one that's like being spoon fed to them. Whereas like what makes you stand out as someone who is creating an indie thing that you develop with a passion for is the fact that it's unique to your voice and interesting, and that's what people are going to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
So for that reason, I'm out. No. I felt like I was getting into
it. Was really that.
I felt like I was a shark, and I was like, or a duck, apparently.
But moral of the story is buy 2 copies of things that you like from indie game designers. One directly from them, and one that you request through your friendly local gaming store.
Let's see.
Okay, so that wasn't just me. I was like, why do I hear like...
No, I've been hearing the echo too. Okay.
Right, everyone take a drink before he gets this email.
It's all fine. Yeah. All right, so a while back, I put out a call for people to share stories, pour the tea of their games and such things. So Steffi heard my call. So why doesn't someone else start, and we'll just like pass off as we see fit.
That sounds good. I'll start off because you read a lot, and then we can go sway.
Sounds good.
Cool. Greetings, mortals, immortals, and those in between. It is I, Steffi from Scotland. I have been called out In season 34, episode 22, Kim didn't quite look directly into the camera and say, "Please, Steffi, give me your Victorian Vampire the Masquerade game sexy gossip. I am begging you," but she may as well have. Who am I to decline the requests for tea? As the podcast is only 2 hours long, just one of those love stories in our 5-month dramatic romp through the world of darkness. Content warning, death of a loved one, homophobia, and stalker behavior. It's all in character, tasteful, and brief. Tasteful, homophobia, and stalker behavior.
Right, yeah.
Ah, well, and brief. All right.
Tastefully described, maybe?
I do want to include that also. Steffi's game includes trans people and things like that. So these are people from the community,
Okay.
and, like experimenting with that. So it's not people LARPing at.
Oh, good to know.
Thank
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah.
I have very different mindsets depending on the two situations. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I very much encourage and appreciate when members of my community play out, like resolve issues they're having and deal with stuff and things that are safe and comfortable. Anyway, all right. I was playing Effie Stewart, the 42-year-old housekeeper for the Piperidge estate. The late Countess Piperidge has recently passed, making Effie promise to help her one surviving heir, a working-class PC, to survive in upper-class society. For this, she recruits the help of the late Countess's pet American PC as someone around the new Countess's age. Together, these 20-somethings will hereby be known as the Kids. We started as mortals and played to see what happens. Effie spends the first 3 sessions stressed out. Her one moment of relaxation was when her doctor friend prescribed they take a walk around the park. No need to ask questions about the time she took a longer route home and stared in the window at a couple of another estate, like from the street. It's not like she climbed into their backyard or anything. Now, I think my inflections were wrong on that now that I know the content of that. Okay. Session 3 was the ball the kids were shocked at. Effie was enthusiastic about. Of course she was. This was the first time the Countess acted like nobility, and even then she was trying to talk us down to a 12-piece orchestra instead of a 15. And of course, the Countess was more interested in the untitled Nepo babies that Pet American had invited. Effie found Viscountess declared in one of the hallways, took her by the hand, led her into the nearest guest room, and started making out with her old flame.
Ooh.
All right, what's up? The table went wild. That is the highlight of my role-playing career.
Wait, okay, so I do need to clarify. So they started out as mortals.
Yeah.
I've never played a vampire game where they started as mortals. That's interesting.
Yeah. And to be at least 3 sessions in, like, it's not a game where you start with, like,
Yeah.
wow, that's a commitment.
Yeah.
So I
like it.
kudos to your party for, like, your group to be able to commit to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, so vampire and many of the World of Darkness settings are actually designed to make that possible. They do have rules for that, and a lot of mage and changeling specifically kind of talk about being able like doing prologues or doing initial sessions as mortals and role playing through your discovery of your true nature. This was one of the things I liked about the New World of Darkness system is they first came out with just the book for the basic rules.
They did, yeah.
And it was basically designed to play mortals, and then you could apply the template later. So yeah. They also
That would
had
be what's now known as the Onyx Path for those who are listening to it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah,
that name.
I played it when it was New World of Darkness,
Yeah.
and then I think that I think there's like 2 different publishers now doing them in Onyx Path.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I think Hunters is doing what's like the revived Old World, and I'm not sure who's doing Onyx Path.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat probably knows way more than I do about that.
Probably so. Yeah. It also in New World of Darkness / Onyx Path, they had a setting called The Innocents, where you played children, and in the World of Darkness, and the idea was that you would play as mortal children, and then later, you would come back as whatever, vampire, werewolf, etc. Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah. And I did play a game through that where we did several sessions as children, and then we all fell into the Feywild, and then we came back and played Changeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
with
very
them.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So- Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No.
Sorry.
You want to take over from here?
Sure.
So let me make sure, because it was hard for me to process what was happening because I was reading. But basically, it was that. So a countess had died. There's a younger heir who is not from that world, who has been brought into that world, and the late countess had an American friend. So these two are kind of like peer-aged people that are both not from this world that are being brought into it. And then Effie is a servant, but she knows the world, so she's shown in the ropes. But then when they go to this big party, Effie pieces out and makes out with a lady for a while they're kind of doing stuff at the party. Okay.
Yes, yeah. A Viscountess.
Yeah, Viscountess.
So, yes.
Thank you.
After,
Bridgerton.
Yeah. After
I'm doing this
Viscountess.
even without the vampires.
Yeah,
involved.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. After Viscountess DeClaire helped Effie release some tension.
Yeah, they did.
They talked. Meh.
Weird.
Right?
How good it was to make out. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
No. Viscountess DeClaire and her family were back from India. Her and her husband have recently had their 6th child. Effie is fine. Completely fine. It's all fine. She apologized for not being there for the funeral of the late Countess. This is weird to Effie, as Viscountess DeClaire was in India, wasn't close to the late Countess, and the apology should go to the current Countess, as she is the family. That is how little it occurs to her that the Viscountess DeClaire wanted to comfort her. She's the help. With some light encouragement from her soft girl kinda girlfriend, Effie melts her icy exterior for the first time and breaks down crying, allowing herself to grieve for the first time. Viscountess DeClaire offers Effie a job at her estate. She wants to take care of her. Mm-hmm. Effie declines. She promised the late Countess to help the new Countess. At that moment, the Countess was trying to stop a physical altercation between two passionate noblemen with different political opinions through the power of song. Okay? It was not going well. I mean, you can try. Viscountess DeClaire tells her she doesn't need to keep a promise to a dead woman. Effie could have said that, unlike some, her word is important to her. That she doesn't promise someone to run away with them and then get married instead.
Oh, snap.
But
This is some gentleman jack shit right
Oh,
here.
yeah, right? Yeah. But she doesn't want to hurt Viscountess DeClaire, so mutters something about this being the last time we do this, for real this time, and returns to work. Yeah, it's
For
always
real.
that.
We're
Yeah.
not going to do this anymore.
Anymore. Yeah.
Ever.
Ever.
Really?
Not
Gosh, your lips are
Totally.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You up? Because of vampires, stuff starts to happen.
Because the vampire stuff starts to happen.
Well, that would have been my favorite until the next line.
First, the unidentified vampire alarm goes off in the late Countess's hidden room.
Oh my god.
Like it does.
Yeah,
You
of
know.
course it does.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I love it.
Effie does not know why the monkey statue is making weird noises and assumes it's the ghost of Theodore, the late Countess's monkey who once caught hold of a gun and began shooting wildly. Would be just like Theodore to do this. She cautiously Indiana Joneses at the statue until it stops screaming unnatural noises at her.
By the way, I'm laughing. I don't want to mock. I'm not actually mocking your game.
No.
It's any role playing thing that's wild and like this sounds like the most
So
fun
much
game to
fun.
be playing in.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Yeah.
laughing because it's just like it's such wild swing.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah,
good.
yeah.
And it's always fun to talk about the
Yeah.
weird things that happen in game because, even if you're in the game, you always laugh about it after.
Oh, yeah,
Like, so good.
So I just want to make sure we don't think we're making
No,
fun
no,
of
no.
you.
We are
Okay.
not making
We
fun
are,
of this
and I know
game.
you wrote this out and you know this very well,
We
but
appreciate- yes.
it's
Yeah.
very.
And look, you're playing vampire. A certain amount of bonkers has to be present.
100%.
Yeah.
I will say I'm trying to understand what Indiana Jonesing at the statue means. I was like, at first I thought they were saying like they did the sandbag switch, but I don't
Yeah.
know what you're doing to make that happen. So I
Yeah.
don't know. So Steffi, if you're listening, I would like to understand more
Yeah.
the physical act of Indiana Jonesing because
Yes.
there's a lot of things that could be Indiana Jonesing, and I don't know
Yeah.
this. Like, was there a giant boulder behind the statue?
Right, yeah.
Were they afraid of snakes near the statue? I don't know.
Could be a
So,
whip.
Yeah. Could be a whip.
Yeah.
I
Especially with
whipped the
this game.
statue until it stopped laughing at me, which is a whole other sexual scene.
other-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like a whip could entirely be present in the room with Viscountess
100%.
DeClaire and Effie.
Yeah.
Yeah. She also finds letters and gifts from the late Countess to the PCs. Effie's letter is a masterpiece in writing that I could spend 5 pages gushing over, or I can focus.
Why start now?
Right. The late Countess knew about Effie and Viscountess DeClaire's affair and disapproved. Not because of gay or affair, but because Effie could do better. Oh, go Countess. Effie really appreciated that, especially since Viscountess de Clare is so wonderful and kind and has really soft hair and is too good for her in particularly every way. There is also a necklace, a family heirloom that Lord Hayward, Viscountess de Clare's father, lost gambling decades ago, for Effie to do with what she wills. Second, Effie looks like she lost her mind after saving the Countess from a vampire attack, the one the screaming monkey was warning them about. She's publicly embarrassed at the party. Viscountess de Clare is concerned. Third, Effie yet again saves the Countess from a vampire attack, but now the PCs are in on the vampires being real, and the vampires know that they know.
Okay, I got confused there. I thought they were saying these are more letters that were coming in.
Oh,
Like,
no.
by the way, according to a letter, you lost your mind.
No.
Now I understand
Oh.
this is like a thing
Yeah.
that happens.
These are
Okay.
things
Yeah.
that are happening. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, now I see. Because first, I think it was because he broke in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go, Kimmy? Or-
Oh, sure.
All right.
We prepare the best we can during the day. Effie wants to protect her niece, who is working as a maid at the estate, so writes an entirely professional letter to Viscountess de Clare with no subtext whatever.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Oh, it is the letter.
For the audience, the letter is here.
Yeah.
Viscountess de Clare. Firstly, I must apologize for any distress you or your family may have experienced during last night's ball. My actions were reckless, as fear overwhelmed my senses. I have already lost 2 employers to upsetting circumstances and overreacted. It brings me deep regret that I may have sullied your first function upon return home. I hope it does not put you off for attending any future events that are held at the Pipperidge estate. Secondly, if I may be so forward, I would like to make a request. The young woman I had deliver this letter is my niece. As you see, she is young, a flaw that she will overcome given time. And like many young women, has dreams of a future different from what her elders have hoped for her. I would hope you know me well enough that I encourage her while advising prudence. But both you and I are aware dreams are fragile, and broken dreams can scar.
Bitch.
Staring right in the at you, Viscountess. Sorry, that's not the letter. Okay. If you would welcome her to your staff, you would have my eternal gratitude. I promise you, I do not abuse your kindness. She may not be the steward you want in your employ, but she is still a steward. If she was to remain here, I would continue training her to replace my role as housekeeper upon my retirement, where it will yet again be my turn to have wayward dreams. Although, as a steward, she will probably follow in a headstrong foolishness in declining your offer, but she was to fail in grasping the future she hopes for herself. There is no place I'd rather see her. My time working in the Hayworth estate were the best years of my life, and I fully trust you with the closest thing I have to a child of my own. Effie Stewart, Hayworth estate.
That's a lot. There's a lot going on
There's
there.
a lot happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you know, as you and I are both aware, dreams are fragile and broken dreams can scar.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
At you. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
No subtext whatsoever.
None. Okay.
Mhm.
Next. And my niece returns with an equally professional letter.
I will take over so you don't have to read 2 letters in a row. All right.
Also, like, we can have different voices.
Yeah.
Bigger.
Effie Stewarts. Think nothing of the excitement at the ball. It would be foolish of me, indeed, to attend an event at a house so recently occupied by the late Countess Piperidge without expecting the unexpected. It might, in fact, be considered part of the charm of the venue, though only a part. I would never dream of declining the offer of service from stewards. My door is and will remain open to any stewards who wishes to step through it, and you may rest assured that I will take good care of any who choose to do so. Your niece second only amongst them.
Ooh.
On a related subject, I was unaware that you were considering retirement. I have spoken briefly with you of my concern that you may be overworking yourself, particularly considering the strain of death of your previous employer. Neither of us are as young as we once were, and I have recently been advised by my physician that a leisurely voyage around the world might be what my health requires, and it occurs to me that you may find yourself in a similar state, though without the means that I have available to me. If so, allow me to extend my hand in friendship. And for the service you have once provided my family, I could do with the company of a friendly face on such a voyage, particularly as my husband finds himself too occupied to attend. Perhaps a leave of absence might prove a less drastic measure than retirement, which would allow you to return to your duties in good health and sound mind in the fullness of time. Yours in friendship, Kitty Hayworth.
Y'all, we're on page 4. Now seems like a good time to pause for comments or switching readers.
We're way ahead of you, Steffi.
Too
Way
late.
ahead of you.
I love the subtext in those letters. That is very
I know,
good.
right? Yeah.
All right, next, the excellent line. Vampire plot happens. Excellent. We make a deal with them, which includes us writing letters to potential vampire sires, stating our worth. This is hard for Effie. Not because she doesn't see her worth, but because the idea of begging for her life feels improper. Her letter has the line, I am also good with a gun. Ask 3 vampires I shot, insert here, for further details. Her response is a challenge to a fight the following night to prove her worth. She actually likes it. Excellent. All right, next reader.
The pet American is to meet with his potential sire that night and asks Effie to join him. She does. It is the most metal college interview with an Egyptian girl boss, which ends up with pet American being led away naked through the empty streets of London, leaving Effie alone.
Sounds correct.
I love it.
Yeah.
Effie takes the next obvious step. She goes to the Declare estate, and when there is no answer because it's the middle of the night, she goes to sleep in their garden, waking up the next day covered in dirt. Unable to sneak out unseen, she politely requests to speak with the lady at the house. Viscountess Declare is worried. She takes Effie inside. Effie sees the 6 children gawking at this strange domestic worker covered in dirt that her mother is dragging through the house. Viscount Declare asks what is going on. Effie is more scared of him than the vampires. She apologizes and explains that she was attacked by the working class last night and found a sanctuary in their yard. He accepted that with no further questions, especially since his wife called me a friend.
Okay.
I was attacked by the working class. Well, this sounds legitimate. Okay, all right,
Say no more. That makes the most sense.
Yes, the working class often does that. I've heard.
Indeed.
I've never met them. I wouldn't know.
Oh my god! This next line. I want to read this and then I'll let you take over after.
Okay.
Okay. His opinion of the poor aside, Viscount Declare is a lovely man, decent. He's a trained nerd.
Yes.
Oh, that makes up for everything else.
It's so good. Viscountess Declare takes Effie to one of the guest bathrooms. Not the servants' bathroom, but she probably doesn't know where they are. She tells Effie to run herself a bath. Effie is barely functional. She came here because she saw someone she cared about being led to his death, only to be overwhelmed with the faces of all the people her affair could hurt. She hides it in playing a role reversal, asking Viscountess Declare to run her the bath. She does. Kitty's the best.
Okay, wait. I have a question, though. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it said it yet, but, like, Effie was covered with dirt.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, has that not come up yet? Like, I feel like it should have come up. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Effie is probably thinking about it.
Like,
But, I mean, she may be in denial at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I don't
but,
know.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I noticed that
Girl's a
immediately.
vampire, right? Like,
Yeah.
Vampire.
Yeah.
We all agree? Okay.
Are you
well,
talking about the Viscountess?
No.
No, Effie.
Effie was buried in the garden. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
oh, I think she's just covered her because she slept in the garden.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
'cause-
didn't know
'cause it-
she's like,
Because it is daytime still. She woke up the next day covered in dirt. So I think
right.
that's
That's what I
true.
thought. Like,
Oh,
she
maybe. Yeah.
was buried and covered in dirt and then woke up the next morning.
I know, right? Yeah.
That's
okay.
how I read it. I
Okay,
didn't know.
I caught that too, but yeah, Riley's right.
There's
It's-
two.
Yeah, I think she's only dirty because she
Okay,
slept in
she's
the garden.
okay. So she's
Yeah.
like covered in dirt, not.
But maybe we'll get there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the email will clarify.
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
I just okay.
'Cause it is daytime, and that would be a hard thing for her to be walking around. And
That's
so-
what I was
Right,
wondering.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, what is happening? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. When Effie's settled in the bath, Viscountess Declare returns with towels and a change of servant clothes. She stays to talk, sitting by the bath with her arms resting over the edge above the water. The mental image will stay with me for a long time. It's so intimate, pure, and comfortable. Oh, that's nice. But she's using you. Viscountess Declare has questions. Effie doesn't want to answer them because that will mean they will want to make her a vampire too, or just kill her. They are very tender with one another. Viscountess Declare asks about the medically advised leisure voyage, and Effie declines, thinking she will be dead or undead come nightfall. No point on getting her girls' hopes up.
She's a reverse vampire. She dies at night.
Right? Yeah. Sorry, I can't go with you on the world cruise because I might be a vampire tomorrow. She gives her the necklace, and Viscountess Declare is buffering. I love that expression.
Yeah.
Effie feels emotionally satisfied that she can go to her death now, but not before preparing. She has all day to booby-trap the battleground. She needs every edge she can get. Back home, she has a heart-to-heart with the Countess, who releases her from her promise. It is like a genie being released from the lamp. She gets her niece packing to leave. She swings by the DeClaire estate to pick up Viscountess DeClaire. Viscountess DeClaire seems to have picked up enough to know Effie is in danger and wants to help. Viscount DeClaire is unhappy at his wife's sudden erratic behavior and the expectation that his ship would have coal when no voyage is planned. His anger here is valid. Effie should have given him a heads up that she's planning to run away with his wife. It's only polite. Viscountess DeClaire managed to talk him down. They return to the Pipperidge estate to have the Countess get them coal. They are pushing it close to dusk, but they make it to the boat, narrowly avoiding an assassin sent by one of the vampires to prevent them from escaping, and we leave London on the Lady Catherine. That's right, Viscountess DeClaire wanted to take her bit on the side on a cruise on the boat her husband named after her. The audacity of this girl. This is why Effie fell for her. It's been accepted by the table that they went to Singapore. Because of other events of the game, they would be proof by the time they get to Singapore that there was a threat and Effie is... Because of other events in the game, there would be proof by the time they get to Singapore that there was a threat and Effie is not paranoid. Hopefully you all got through this letter with your voices intact. The tea has been served.
Thank you.
Steffi from Scotland, Steffi on the Discord, Bumbletrue in the Twitch chat.
What I love about this, Steffi, is I like that this is almost the exact reverse of the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies thing. Of like, that was like, what if we took this like slow burn, like Jane Austen story and turned it into a monster story? This is like, what if we didn't care at all about the actual vampires and we just they're like, yeah, the vampire story, great. Yeah, vampires, cool. Tell me more about this sapphic romance.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it too. I love that literally like the most we get from that is like vampire plot happens and then we go back to it.
Yeah.
It's so
And like the
beautiful.
real quick thing of like the vampire leading the guy through the town in a Game of Thrones shame dance.
Right, yeah.
That's it. Like,
Yeah.
I also love that the characters themselves are trying to not become vampires or like
Right.
Yeah.
It's really a fun thing because most of the time, I've never even played in I played a lot of vampire. I've never played in a vampire game where you start as humans.
Oh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
And honestly, I didn't even realize it was an option. I mean, I assumed that could happen because it kind of can happen. But I was
Yeah.
like, well, who would do that?
Right.
But I love that there's this whole plot with them trying to not be vampires.
Yeah.
In a vampire game.
Right.
Yeah. This actually feels a lot more like a World of Darkness dark game than it does a vampire game.
Yeah,
It feels like
exactly, yeah.
It's humans surviving in a world with vampires versus being a game about, because vampire is definitely a game about the the dance
Being
of
a
the
vampire,
It's about
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, and so it seems to me, if I'm understanding this correctly, Effie never did become a vampire.
No.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Unless it happened on the boat on the way to Singapore.
True. Yeah. Well, this
A
is
lot
only
of things happen on boats on the way to Singapore.
right. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, and I think like this is the kind of thing that World of Darkness does do well, is play with this ridiculous mix of social combat and layers and I mean, many people have seen me do World of Darkness on the stream. I love it. Soft spot in my heart for World of Darkness, but it gets you to those places where you can have these ridiculous things happen and yet it still somehow makes sense within the world.
Yeah. Now, is it something like having not done a World of Darkness game like this before, is it something where the vampires are run by the GM or are they actually other players?
It sounds to me from the context of this letter that the vampires are actually being run by the GM.
That's what I think's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes more sense because it seems like big time passes during the day and all these events are happening. It doesn't seem like it would be very fun to be a vampire player,
Right.
like just sitting around for all that. But
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting. I don't know. How does it work? Like, it's just kind of an interesting thing as a GM to manage this like ticking clock of when do you become a vampire?
Right.
When do you become a vampire? Who becomes a vampire when? How do they balance that out when suddenly some players maybe only can like come out at night versus? So it's just kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's an interesting challenge as a player because you're playing a vampire game and you're playing characters that may not want to be vampires, but you as the player ultimately want them to become a vampire. So how do you play that? And when do you give into the moment? When do you let the story take over? And I think that's something that you could have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like they're also playing the game and I think this is the thing I think you can get away with at tables a lot of times is everyone's kind of getting scenes that are their scenes that aren't, like it's like D&D because it's so exploring and combat oriented, it's hard to do too much separating people. But I think a game like Vampire or social based games, you can have different scenes. So it sounds like, for example, like the Pet American has his own separate scene with his potential sire, this Egyptian girl boss who makes him naked and leads him around. Like, whereas like they're not as like they might be at the table and like it sounds like this game is juicy enough that it'd be fun to be at the table even if you're not playing in it.
Yeah.
And so that's I think part of why it works as well. What's interesting to me is getting to a game where you've literally had one character. And by the way, I think the PCs in this game are Effie, the Pet American, and the new Countess. There might be more PCs, but those are the three we know for sure. PCs.
Right.
Everybody else might be NPCs.
Yeah.
But and maybe the Viscountess, but I don't think so. But it's interesting to have this scene where Effie has sailed away to Singapore because it's almost like, oh, are you retiring your character from the game now, or are you going to be playing like? Are we going to have some scenes happening in Singapore,
right?
While other scenes, like, is this Game of Thrones the seasons when Dany is in Estos instead of Westeros, and we're doing all the different areas? Like, I guess that's almost all the seasons until the last one, but still,
But still,
Is this when Arya goes to join the Faithless Men?
Right. Yeah.
I think having this game set in that time period is also very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Because this is like, I mean, I love playing historical games. Most of the vampire games I played have actually been modern or modernish, like 90s. But having it be such a formal time and having one of them be like a viscountess, like there are very structured rules about showing up at her house, when you can do that. And that makes it a little bit easier to contain and control when the NPCs and PCs interact. And also it limits like, okay, well, you showing up at, you wouldn't be allowed to go during the day, so going at night as a vampire, like it just adds a whole nother layer that makes more sense than like if she doesn't see someone who's been turned into a vampire for a few days. That makes sense in that time period.
Right. Yeah.
One of them is a maid. One of them is a viscountess. They're not chilling at Starbucks every day.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like someone's gonna be like, where are you? Like texting her. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I love the
Sending a letter from a servant.
Right. Yeah.
Are you
Yes.
you up?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives that space to have things happen that lets the characters find out about it in a slower pace than modern games, which I love.
Well, and I think that's something that Victorian age vampire and some of the historical vampire settings work really well because I mean the whole vampire mythos really kind of came of age during that era, and so it even though the legends were around long before then, but that's when it really became popular and well known, and
romanticized.
And romanticized, and a lot of it is about rejecting or playing into those social structures that are so rigid, and now you're somehow outside of those social structures, but also having to play within them. So I think I find there's a lot of meat and enjoyment in putting vampires in, especially Victorian era.
I think it like really harkens back to your Carmilla and your like even Bram Stoker Dracula and things like that. Like it's very much that like separating the classes and like putting like the decency, which means like, and like politeness means like you isolate yourself in ways that you can pick off easier, and not that modern vampire stories can't also be great, but I do feel like most modern vampire stories are either just like a smoldering romance or they're an action story. And whereas like I think that Victorian vampires do a lot of fun with like taking the kind of mores of the time and these very like courtly things and then mapping a monster story on top of it, so it's not as fast paced. Whereas like a werewolf story is more of a just fighting a monster story.
Right. I mean, if you tell me I'm going to be in a vampire game set in the 90s, or like the 80s, like we're gonna do a Lost Boys kind of thing. I'm gonna expect a certain amount of flair and rock and roll and fighting and and all that juicy actiony kind of stuff. But if you tell me we're gonna do Victorian vampire, I'm like, oh good, we're gonna sip some tea. Like, fuck yeah.
Well, it was especially for our women of the time. Things were so structured
Mhm.
and and if you were the barely existing middle class or upper class especially, every single moment of your life was regimented as a
Yeah.
woman specifically. So these specifically, when what we see especially in Dracula is this breaking of women out of, like, it takes them becoming a monster to become free in a
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
So it's something that is fun to play with,
Yeah.
because our modern lives have a lot of structure that we have no control of in a very different way
Mhm.
in some ways. But it's always fun to play someone who suddenly gets like this ability to break out of what is confining them, and that's
Yeah.
a great kind of like theme of these stories.
And
Yeah.
I think vampires usually being aristocrats in these stories really plays into that, because, like you're saying, like structure, the society is structured in such a way. So of course the predator is going to be at the very top or the higher
Mhm.
up part of that structure, and it's like in a way commentary on that as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that's why like Carmilla is such like a I'm saying it right. It's Carmilla, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the like it's so scandalous that it's this like woman that's preying on these young women, like it's like that. Or and I think that even draws into like the rumors about like Countess Bathory. I think that's who it is. Countess Bathory, like the like countess that was like
Yeah.
allegedly a murderer. There's a lot of debates about whether that was really the truth or that was
Yeah.
smear campaign. But the idea that she would like bring young women up to her castle and like torment
Mhm.
them and steal their blood to make her young, like
Yeah.
it's like,
Bathe in
you know,
virgin's blood. and
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
those kinds
yeah.
of things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. But I do like the idea though of this game going in a way where like they're on the boat to Singapore, but there's also stories happening in so like for like 6 sessions you're just on the boat to Singapore.
Yeah.
You're getting it on.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
All
now
the
back
time.
to the young American who's being walked around through the streets naked. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
I know, and I guess, and by the way, Steffi, whoever's idea it was to like have the young American paraded naked through the streets of London, I love that for them. Thank you. That's exactly the kind of thing I want in my vampire stories. I assume that was prelude to the pet American being turned into the vampire by the Egyptian girl boss.
It does sound like
Right,
it said it was
yeah.
potential sire. So
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like
Mhm.
that's what
Yeah.
he wanted.
I imagine like, here's your final humiliation.
But what if they didn't? They're like, nope, we just did it for the fun of it.
Yeah,
And, like,
right. Sorry, yeah, we're
very
not going to
Guillermo
vampire
kind of
you.
thing of
Yeah.
like, no, Guillermo,
Yeah.
you don't know what to do for
Not the Guillermo.
But yeah, I was thinking you said like
Yeah.
how like 80s vampire story would be Lost Boys, and then I was like 90s vampire would be probably again humans, but it'd be like Buffy, like you're hunting
Yeah,
vampires,
right.
And then
Mhm.
vampires would be like anti-heroes that work with the Buffy kind of
Yep.
character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think, this is something that that World of Darkness, I think, does really well, is being playing on all of the societal things and being able to adapt it to basically any era can really work, and it can be a lot of fun. I played a Dark Ages vampire campaign once, and it was one of the best role-playing experiences I've ever had.
Oh, wow.
It was like we just had some phenomenal characters that just had a great story that was well told, and it's a lot of fun. But I think so much of the monster world, the supernatural, like vampires, werewolves, witches, all of that stuff, all of that sort of came about as reactions to marginalized people being excluded from the places of power. And so I find a lot of enjoyment in those, and I love playing characters in those settings who are not the typically in power and having to navigate all of that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah.
So,
I did want to recommend a book if you liked this game and it sounds like a story you'd want to hear more of, that kind of thing. There's a book that I read last year. The novel is called A Tempest of Tea, and the author's name, I apologize if I mispronounce this, but it's Hafsa Faisal, and it was basically like, it's kind of a little bit YA, but it's basically about like a tea house in a fantasy style Victorian city where during the day they're a tea house, and then at night they're actually like a black market shop for places for vampires to come and like have like people they can feed off of consensually and stuff like that. And then they're being cracked down on by the city at the beginning of the story, and it's like about their attempt to like get revenge on like the people. It's really interesting, so I recommend that. It's like a heist. It's like a Victorian heist story about people who like do have like a vampire black market.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. So
oh man,
Amazing.
very
Correct.
cool.
Mailbag 3 from the archive, 2019. Jackers, the other day I was watching The Nutcracker and Four Realms. It was fine. And I noticed an odd sensation. The movie world seemed to end at the edges of the screen. I had no feeling that there was anything worth looking at in the rest of the movie's world. Contrast this with Rain of Fire, with the high altitude, low open skydiving hunting dragon units, or Death's Gambit and Hollow Knight video games, where I get the distinct feeling that there's more out there. That there are other interesting people, locations, and situations in the world, and we're just looking at one of them. That kind of evocative depth is a major draw of RPGs for me. Do you guys have any thoughts about the things we can do, concrete actions we can take as GMs to create that kind of depth? I'm sure a lot of it has to do with unanswered questions and tantalizing peeks at information. As the GM, we can see the facades and the buildings and the strings and the NPCs. How can we gauge how effective the illusion is to the players? Thanks everything for that you guys do. Joe from the Inland Empire. Nurse Quobris on the forums. That was a long time ago. We don't have forums anymore. Go to the Discord. P.S. Quaff the potion of your choice. P.P.S. We're not still doing this, are we? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's many years later. We're still doing the PPS thing.
Yeah.
We're still doing it. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of a bit once.
Yeah,
it's
the only
started.
thing that's out of date from your email is we don't have forums. We have a Discord now.
Yeah, and no one remembers Nutcracker for Four Realms anymore. That was a movie that that came and went and disappeared again.
Yeah.
I was
They
like,
tried
I
it.
don't remember that
They tried
movie.
it.
I
They
do
tried
remember Rain of Fire though, and
Yeah.
Yes.
and yeah, I really
I
go ahead.
personally did not feel like Rain of Fire made me feel like the whole world was out there. I really felt like it was like there's a lot of rubble in London, and that's it. But yeah, one guy's American. That's about it.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I mean, I remember in Rain of Fire thinking, like, how did they get here? Really, like, I'm sure there's a lot of other stories that could be told in this world. To me, that's one of the things that draws me to an IP is that sense that, like, oh, there's a whole bunch of other stuff here, and it's something that I really try to work into my games. I'll say, like, first of all, my first piece of advice for making sure this is wound into your games is do all of the research and planning and development of the history that you want to, but don't get tied too much to it. Be willing to change it. Like, it's great to have your headcanon of what you think happened, but be ready to change it on the fly. And when a character says, like, oh, I'm from Australia where we had to leave because of the incident. And you're like, the incident? Fuck yeah. That's,
A boat with a Viscountess arrived and it scandalized.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, they were supposed to go to Singapore.
Why was she covered in dirt?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Was she covered in dirt or was she covered in dirt?
Right. Yeah. And
Yes,
the
answer is yes.
Yeah. Just leave places in your world development for vampire plot happens.
Yes.
Right? Like, so I mean, that's the thing that I think is most important, because the players will tell you what interests them about the world that you're going to be in. It starts with just the first steps of character creation. As soon as they tell you, like, what class they're doing, or what species, or what clan, or what whatever kind of thing it is, you start to get a sense of what do they want to see. If everybody creates, like, just using D&D as an example, if everybody creates, like, a fighter and a rogue and a paladin and a barbarian, like, this group wants some melee combat. Like, so give them armies of goblins to smash through. But if they all take an 18 charisma, that they really want to do the social stuff, so you might as well play
Unless
World
they're
of Darkness.
playing warlocks and
unless they're playing right, yeah.
So
So but they'll, like, all of those clues start to tell you, and I'm not just saying this to suck up, but play Decima.
I was gonna say it too. And I know that. I know that. Like, I knew you were gonna have that reaction to it, but that is literally what it's for.
So
Sure.
So,
But I think tied in with that, I think more than just basing, like, what happens in the game in the class, but, like, pulling things. I mean, if you play Decima or if you don't, from their backstory.
Yes.
Because that's what's gonna, like, slowly, like, you start off with, like, this is this is where our game's going to take place.
Yeah.
No matter how you play. And then if you're like, oh, so and so he went here, was it, and you, oh, she did this and they did this, and like pulling things from what the players have already created, I think what you were saying is really, really vital and very important to slowly pushing out the walls and the boundaries. Like the thing I hate more than anything else is in a video game where they don't even bother to try to hide the ends of the map.
Oh.
Or there's not like a cliff or a mountain or an ocean. It's literally just like you stop running forward.
Yeah.
And you can look beyond and it's a beautiful field. But your horse is just like running into this invisible wall. I hate it.
And Assassin's Creed has the dignity to be like, oh, the memory doesn't go beyond this.
Yeah,
That's why you can't
exactly.
go there.
Like, in-game reason for it. Great.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was The Witcher.
Sorry, Adventure Road. There's no road that way today.
Yeah, Witcher 3. Like, I was just like running. I was like, oh, look over it. I'm done. I'm not going that way anymore.
Nope, guess I'm done.
I'm gonna turn this
I found
way.
the end.
Yeah, I feel like there's two kinds of DMs that could be thinking about this, and I think the kind that you are is going to, or maybe not kind of DM, but kind of game you're building kind of determines, like I was going to say the same thing you did of like letting the players be involved in it a little bit more. Like not just like go to their backstory, but like, so let me rewind to my initial point. There's two kinds of building games that are happening here. One is you have not thought that much about the world you're building because that's not what's important to you in a story. Like your story is more plot based, and so the world is a little bit less built out, and that's okay. It's not like that's not wrong. That's just the kind of way. So you're looking to find ways to now build around that world and stuff like that. And so like using the players, even if you don't use Decima, like talking to the players, like, tell me, where are you from? What's that? And like letting them build part of the world. Let them decide where they're from. Yeah. And then now that they've said, like, I'm from this area and things are like this, cool, that's part of your world. You can put it where you want to put it. You put it now, like, that's a little piece of your world. And if you do that, let's say if you have 5 players, you can create 5 corners of your little area that like people can go to. Yeah. The other version of this is you do have a very important setting and the setting matters to you. For example, what we just talked about ahead of time, a Victorian England or a fantasy version of that, obviously then you're going to be wanting to think of like what are the rules of the society, what are those like, and you're going to build those into your game. So I think that's both ways, like then prepare ahead of time. How are you going to get it in both? So if you do the first one, like I said, giving your players the ability to build into it, I think the second one, you still should do that a little bit. Like even if you've designed the world, like let your players, like you said, even though you've committed to this work you've done to build something, let your players have some ownership, because then it's going to make them feel like, oh, I get this world. I've tilled the dirt in this world, and I've planted some seeds that make sense to me, and now I understand it. The next thing I would say as the next step, one thing I love doing in games is thinking of holidays and festivals. Yeah. Think about things that, or on those same ideas, things that the people in that world do to pass the time or to acknowledge like the passage of time, or acknowledge like getting past some sort of milestone. Like, because you think about like in our world, like the reason why we have winter holidays in areas that have cold climate is because people often didn't survive the winter, or the winter was very hard because you couldn't harvest food. And so you kind of would have like, oh, this is a really rough time of year. Let's have an excuse to gather in a warm place together and like get through this dark, scary time. Like a lot of like what we think of, like if you look at Nordic mythology, a lot of what the people thought about like the Aurora Borealis and also winter storms, that the gods were the wild hunt. They were riding around looking to kill people because the winter storms were so brutal and bad. So let's all gather in a place to keep warm and comfortable and safe. Yeah. And so if you have something like that in your game, now you've built that story of like, oh, this is a rough, harsh climate that we're living in. So we've over the years, maybe our technology has gotten better and we're not as afraid of sky gods killing us, but we've got those traditions now of gathering and having a hearth and being warm. Yeah. So like that there, now you've got a little backstory or thing. And so like it could be like, let's say you live somewhere where there used to be a lot of flooding, and maybe like there was like a reason like, oh, this time of year we raise lanterns, or we build like raised platforms because we used to be so sure of when the tide coming in this time of year, we had to build this up. Now we've got dams and levees, and that's not a problem anymore, but we still celebrate that by like this like symbolic version of that. Now you've created a history for that area. Yeah. That was a really rough off top of my head example, but like I was like, what's not as much real worlding, but what should do.
Yeah. I think having diversity makes the world seem bigger. Yes. People being from other places. And one thing I really love, if you look at the the starter set adventures for the One Ring. You are a hobbit in the Shire.
Mhm.
Everything's very the same. Everything is very small. And then slowly, as you play the game, as you explore out of the Shire, suddenly you start meeting different species. You start meeting other cultures and things like that. So I think it's a very useful tactic to really think in terms of this. If you start your adventure as, okay, you're a group of farmers who are fighting off the orcs who are attacking your town, and that's how your adventuring party starts, have everything seem very the same. And then as they explore out, as they as they get to know, it starts making the world seem bigger as they run into new things and things that are different from where they are. Places that have different holidays, places that have different styles of armor or whatever it is. And if you want something to seem very big from the start, but maybe your group is trapped, if you were going to do like Reign of Fire, like personally, if I was going to redo it, which is not something I would do, but like have people from like all over the world, like this very interesting thing, like report, and maybe they have this, but it's literally been like 2 decades since I watched this, but like having them like report in, like, oh, they tried this in Australia, oh, these, and have a bunch of people like, if they find out, like I know that, I think if I remember correctly, like air travel doesn't exist anymore because you can't travel with dragons.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, air travel doesn't really exist anymore anyway. But anyway,
because of the dragons.
Yeah,
Right.
because of the
The metaphorical dragons.
the metaphorical
The wealth hoarders.
Yes.
What?
What? Oh yes. But having them have knowledge and having people who are stuck. Like, have people who are like, yeah, I was on vacation when the dragons appeared in London, and now I've been here for 50 years or whatever it is. I don't remember the timeline. But, like, have it like, oh, yeah, I just never got to go home. I have no, I don't know if my family is fine.
Yeah.
And having all these different people from all different parts of the world and all these different cultures who just were stuck there. And, like, so that way you get this idea of the world is much bigger, even if we're stuck in this small place.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where the world building for that particular movie failed. As you said, a lot of English people and one American.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
And then the Americans arrive like as a team. But
that's
yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's right.
But still, yeah, you
But
don't
no.
see much of that happening. And because like the main dragon is in London where they're at,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, so what is happening in the rest of the world? Then if this guy is here, what's happening?
Why is
Yeah.
the entire world not trying to focus on this one thing?
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe they did. I don't remember.
Yeah, he might have been hibernating and they didn't know, whatever. I can't remember now.
I think they discovered it. Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
There's
been a
something
while.
about like there's something about it like flying around the world and like seeding all the eggs. Like, there's something
Yeah,
about that, which is
something.
like this dragon's just gonna like just do it all over the world, and that's gonna be how it works. Like, what's happening? Yeah,
Maybe,
so,
yeah.
Does
I
it
mean,
get on everything? Like, is it sticky? It's like my question.
yeah. I'm pretty sure like there's only one bull dragon, and the rest of the dragons are all females.
think
So if they
that's what it
kill
was.
him, it stops the dragons. But it's like, but there's
Yeah.
still a lot of other dragons out there. Like, this doesn't always solve the problem.
right. Yeah.
Like they might. Yeah.
But you'll get to those
The
eventually.
idea is eventually, hopefully, they'll all die off. But we
Yeah,
also
but-
don't know what the lifespan of these dragons are.
Right.
Not to go too deep on dragons, but like I think the same thing with that as they do with the. I love the How to Train Your Dragon series deeply.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But I'm also like in that one also has in the first movie this giant like dragon that's like in charge of all the other dragons.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, wait. Who is that dragon's mate? Where is that dragon's mate? How are there like? Why is there only one dragon? That like, because they're all different species of dragons, but there's this one like god dragon.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like, okay, so it's dead, but like, where did it come from originally? Like, how did it get so big?
Right.
How is it in charge? How are there not more dragons that are just like that? And like, that's the kind of world building around. Like, just explain this aspect to it. And I think it might be that in the third movie there's like a dragon realm, but
yeah,
like,
they
still,
they do kind of explain it in the third movie, but yeah, it leaves a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And
The one thing
Yeah.
I love and I totally believe about Reign of Fire is that there's one part where they're like trying to entertain people.
Yes!
They're
Yes!
putting on this play, and it ends up being like
Star
Return of the
Wars,
Jedi.
yeah.
And they're like, Luke, I am your because I
Where
would
he's the Black Knight.
Yeah,
the,
he's
the,
like
kid, the
the-
kids wouldn't understand space stuff at all.
yeah,
so
they're
they're-
just like and they're just like
I
amazed.
might need to rewatch this movie. I don't remember a lot
Black
of
Knight
that.
says, "I am your father."
Yeah.
It's very, very.
Only thing
short.
I remember of the entire film.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what he's saying, and that is something I 100% believe will happen if or when or no, there won't be
Oh, yeah.
a post-apocalyptic
Yeah,
There's
world.
a
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
called Mr. Burns, and it is about a post-apocalyptic world where like people remember like episodes of The Simpsons and they do them as like from memory and like they like it's a wild
Nice.
play and like the stagings of it are apparently very wild. Like it's one of those things where like reading it won't give you the effect of seeing it perform live.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think that is what will survive from our culture is all.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Star Wars will be
Yeah.
preserved.
It was funny
at
when you were
least.
trying to remember Reign of Fire from memory. I was like, it's like you're doing what the knights are doing in that scene of Reign of Fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very meta.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately with this, I think it's important that you've got to involve the players. If you want them to be interested in the world and the setting and know that there's more out there, like be involved with them. Take the little nuggets that they give you, turn them into something, talk to them about them, and go off into narrative sometimes and just say, look, well, okay, let me tell you one of the stories of this ancient world. And, there are ways that you can incorporate those things and like you were saying with the you see somebody in very, very different armor that gives you a hint that there's something else out there, there's something more. So I think, but if you try to just do it all internally and then never involve the players in it and never connect it to what they're interested in, they're not gonna come for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as you see a warrior riding over the hill. They look very different than any warrior you've ever seen, although the weaponry is somewhat recognizable. What about them is so different? And then have each one of them give a different answer. Or something like that.
Absolutely,
and answers can be conflicting, and you're like, this is what your people think about it, this is what your people think about it,
Yeah.
and people's points of view on it, and which one's real, what's folklore, what's real. I was going to say also, something I recommend as another suggestion is to look up interviews with Imagineers about different things they've designed at Disneyland or Disney parks, because so much of what Imagineers have to do is find a way to tell a story through an experience. So there's a lot of things of people when they were building Animal Kingdom, they went to parts of the world to figure out what the architecture was like and how to restructure it. But then similarly the same thing with Galaxy's Edge. You're like, okay, we're making this spaceport on this planet, let's figure out the things about what the climate would be like here and what the structures and stuff would be like because of that. So I think there's ways that you can figure out how to pepper in things that will give people details for the storytelling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay.
Are we set?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
All right.
We did
Thank
it.
you. We did it. Thank you for joining us for season 32, episode number 7. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month. I forgot to copy it.
It was
Jean-Luc.
Jean. No, it was
Jean-Luc.
No, I remember Jean-Luc. Yeah, there we go. You can find them at thedungeonkeys.com. And it's very exciting. Thanks to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. If you are a Patreon subscriber, I am going to be posting in the next day or two a post that is very important about the future of how we're going to continue to do the show. I'm messing around with possibly doing a Shopify subscription model versus instead of Patreon, or having maybe both so people can pick or things like that. Please look for that post and let me know how you feel about it. Please. So yes, my name is Kimmy, she, her. You can find me at goldenlassogames.com or at Golden Lasso Girl on just Blue Sky basically right now. I know I'm on other places, but I'm not really monitoring them. So, I'm here for the show every Saturday. Yeah. I'm writing a lot of Starscape stuff.
Hi everyone. My name is Adam, they, them, and I just want to say I'm really happy to be back. It's been almost a year since I've been able to do anything with Happy Jacks, and I've missed being on the advice show. I'm not going to be running a game anytime soon, but maybe I'll be playing in one soon if there's an opening comes up. But anyway, I'm glad to be back. You can find me at HOOBUK Hubuk on Instagram. That's where I am most of the time, talking about art and labor movement and my cats and sci-fi and stuff like that, all the geeky things. And then I'm not really doing a whole lot else lately. So.
Hey everybody, I am Riley Silverman. My pronouns are she, her, and I am You can find me on Blue Sky at RileySilverman.bluesky.social, those things. And yeah, Riley Silverman. And if I'm still on a social site, probably Riley Silverman. But my big thing that I'm very excited to bring up, I finally can talk about it. I have been not able to talk about it for about a year at this point, is that I wrote a Doctor Who. I wrote a audio book for Big Finish, which is the official licensee that does audio dramas for Doctor Who. And I got the chance to pitch an idea last year at the end of Gallifrey 1, and I pitched it. And then over the course of the year, I got through multiple steps of pitching. I got the very glorious email back in late September that the BBC had approved my pitch. And so I got to write it over the course of October, and I finally was able to talk about it. I literally was at a Doctor Who convention 2 weeks ago, and I could not talk about it there. But now I can talk about it. It's coming out in April. It is part of a box set. There's a series they do called Short Trips, which is essentially short story audiobooks. They're all about 5,000 words or less. And they're prose, so they're read by a single reader. My reader is a very lovely British trans actress named Rebecca Root, who has been in quite a few projects. She was on Heartstopper. She's done a few things. And weirdly, I've met her multiple times in my life unrelated to this. Like I met her at a premiere one time, and I also interviewed her for Nerdist for a different Doctor Who thing she was doing. Anyway, my story, the name of the box set is going to be called Tales from the Vortex. It's going to be coming out in April. It's available now for pre-order on a Big Finish's website. I should have maybe found a way to give James V a link, but I do have it on my main page of Blue Sky. There's a link to it right now on my pin post. But my story is called Dark Watchers of California, and it is set in Big Sur in 1966, following there was a, if you know your queer history, there was a riot in San Francisco in 1966, so that is somewhat connected to this story. And Dark Watchers is also a cryptid, so that's not really a spoiler because it's in the title of the episode. But the very fun thing about it, though, is that and there's 5 other stories, all written by really amazing, talented people: Ben Teth, Christian Markham, Daniel Hardcastle, Mags Halliday. So it's a really and my friend Paul Booth, who I almost forgot. Sorry, Paul. And it's funny. 4 of us were at Galley, and we got like a photo together, but we couldn't talk about why and where we were doing it. But so Stephen Moffat, when he wrote he came back to Doctor Who to write 2 episodes during the most recent season and Christmas special. And the year before that, in an interview, he slipped the names of his episode titles into an interview because it was Boom and Joy to the World. He said something like, "Oh, I say one thing about Doctor Who," and boom, everyone gets freaked out about it or whatever. So I was interviewing him on the main stage at Galley, and I asked him a question about doing that, and then I said, "You got a lot of watchers out here in California waiting for your answer," and that was my way of dropping the
Love it.
So yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, that comes out in April. You can pre-order it now. It is 6 amazing Doctor Who audios, roughly for about $20 American, just a little bit less than that in pounds currently. But I am very excited. Anyone who knows me knows that I have been a massive Doctor Who fan for quite a long time. It defines me as a person, you might say. I have done a Doctor Who RPG podcast, and I've written Doctor Who stuff for like nerdy websites like Nerdist and Sci-Fi and stuff like that. And you know, this is the first time I've gotten to like contribute something to the narrative of that universe. And it's a drama that features the 12th Doctor and his companion Bill Potts, who is like a very favorite companion of mine. But I rambled on enough. I'm just very excited about it. I'm excited I can finally talk about it, so I want to say all the words about it that I can. Yeah. But again, it's Short Trips, Tales from the Vortex. We look for it in audio form coming in April.
Awesome.
It's so amazing.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I'm so excited. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Very cool.
Amazing.
It's Big Finish, James, not Big Fish. I should say. It's not a Ewan McGregor film about a dead father.
Big Finish Doctor.
But I mean, I
It's
also
correct in the URL.
I make that mistake myself frequently, but so
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Today we are going to leave you with a song because I did not leave town and leave Jason without a new song embedded in the show. So it's going to be a different song this week for the first time in a few weeks. Today we're going to leave you with a song called The Sky Boat Song, which is a take on, if you've ever watched Outlander, like the song at the beginning is actually a traditional Scottish song, and a group called the Mary Sues, which I am technically in still, if we ever start rehearsing again. Sang it and recorded it, so you'll hear me singing it, and you can find them at marysuesband.com. And thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Moon was astern, room on the port, egg on the starboard bow. Glory of song glowed in my soul. Where is that glory now? Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Give me again all that was there. Give me the sun that shone. Give me the eyes, give me the soul. Give me the love that's gone. Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Billow and breeze, islands and seas, mountains of rain and sun. All that was good, all that was fair, all that was me is gone. Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky, over the sea